He's a rabbit with a habit. He's skinny but they call him Fat Rabbit. He's a rabbit and there you have it. If he offers you a drink you better grab it.
Chapter 5. No ungulates here, no Siree. It would probably be fair to say that, in common with all guards assigned to keep people, or animals, enclosed in a particular place overnight, those charged with watching Fat Rabbit's farm were bored out of their wits. It was their sorry task to wander up and down Five-Folds Lane through the cold and damp of the night to ensure that no one, not even a mouse, left Fat Rabbit's farm. When the sun first vanished below the hills around the valley, they were keen and alert. But as the moon rose and cast its quicksilver over the landscape, the cold began to bite. The silence spread like a fog, and the vision of a warm bed nagged at their brains. One thought alone consoled them. They weren't guarding a carpet warehouse. Little wonder it was, therefore, that they failed to notice the cracks in the curtains of the farmhouse that allowed slivers of warm orange light to escape. That the chicka-chicka-chicka of sewing machines drifted past their ears like the summer call of crickets, and that the occasional cry of "Bagger" and "That was my finger" failed to suggest to their highly tuned and professional surveillance systems that anything was amiss. This was very useful for Fat Rabbit, but to be honest, it could not be said to be anything that he had planned, foreseen, or taken a wild bet on after one too many glasses of Fitou. Eventually, of course, the night faded, and the rose of dawn touched the hills, and the sleepy cock crowed to banish the ghosts of those who had been incredulously murdered with poison in their ears, or to wake those wrinkled songsters who had already had it in the year before. So the cock crowed too at Fat Rabbit's farm, shivering the mist as it lingered under the trees, and perking up the guards who had fallen asleep in damp patches of grass and dock and nettles, and who awoke with a terrible crick in their neck. Thus the day dawned. Just as it dawned at Thermopylae, at Hastings, at Waterloo and Orgreave, so its ethereal light lit up the quiet valley surrounding Fat Rabbit's farm. Then, just to make things worse, it started to rain. What will history tell of those brave souls who walked out from the farmhouse and waited, noble and dignified, in a line so back straight and solid? That line that without flinching waited for their murderers and executioners to come and dispense their summary justice. History will record that they really did chance it. Fat Rabbit dejectedly opened the gate as the Oberst and Corporal Clot entered the farmyard brandishing their bolt guns like butchers brandishing bolt guns.
"We are entering these premises under regulation."
Yes, 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 exclaimed Fat Rabbit, pulling at his ears. It was such a sorrowful sight to see.
Kill 'em all,"
murmured the Corporal.
"As I was saying, under Article,"
continued the Oberst. "Oh, woe, yes, pity," cried Fat Rabbit. "All hoofed animals must be culled." The Oberst looked at the rabbit a little suspiciously.
"Yes, that's right, must be culled."
"Hoofed, of course," offered Fat Rabbit, plainly showing that if he had had a cap in his paw, then it would have been there, in his paw, of course. "Cold, cold, cold," shouted Corporal Clot, jumping up and down in the mud. "Ah, I see. Better come this way, then," said Fat Rabbit. His ears were down and sodden by the rain, and he looked as defeated as ever a rabbit had ever looked. Slowly he led them across the threshold to where the denizens of Fat Rabbit's farm lined up forlornly in the dawn rain. As they walked, Corporal Clot stroked his bolt gun in the most menacing of ways, and the Oberst stroked his knee in a quite disturbing way.
"I was beginning to think you were a rebellious little floppy-eared revolutionary,
But I see now that you have been misled by your misguided ideals and delusional friends, slimed the oberst, stroking Fat Rabbit's head. Yep, that'll be about right, said Fat Rabbit, staring at his feet. Where do you want to start? Right in the middle, answered the officer, drawing out each word very slowly and fixing Fat Rabbit with a wide, glaring eye. Don't take me for a fool, Bunny. Perish the thought, said Fat Rabbit, all humble-like, added under his breath. More like a raving psychopathic nutter. So, continued the oberst, pausing in front of his first would-be victim, what have we here? If it please you, sir, grovelled the rabbit, a polar bear. Barrow, said Woolly unhelpfully, from beneath the extra fleeces that had been piled upon her to bigger up, as Fat Rabbit had described it. Yes, said Fat Rabbit hurriedly. Terrible and tragic story. Orphaned when but a cub, and dragged up on the fell sides by an alcoholic ram and tranquilized you, only to find, finally, a home here, amongst the misfits and miscreants of our humble farm. Let's see your feet, Bear, growled the corporal. Slowly, Woolly raised her front foot for inspection. Where only a few hours previously there had been a dainty sheep's hoof, now was all wool and fur and claw, with only the slightest hint of a slipper. Pondered the oberst, stroking his chin in a beard-missing way. Very well. Next. Next in line was Melissa the pig, though not even her own mother would have recognised her were it not for the handkerchief with which she dabbed her tearful eyes. Her pinkness was all intact, but her ears had grown tenfold in size and flapped about her head, and where the most intelligent and sensitive of snouts had been, there now swayed in the breeze a trunk that bore more than a passing resemblance to a pink-coloured stocking. Elephant, explained Fat Rabbit. The oberst looked doubtful and took hold of Melissa's trunk. Terrible case, whispered Fat Rabbit to the oberst. Appendage dysfunction. You know, limp trunk. Please don't mention it. To Fat Rabbit's surprise, the oberst blushed and let go of Woolly's trunk. Let's see your feet, shouted the corporal. Sniffing, Melissa lifted her foot. Now what in the name of all that is holy is that supposed to be? Demanded the oberst. Corporal, what is on the end of this animal's leg? It looks to me, sir, like a waste paper container, to me, sir, said the corporal, saluting. Precisely, said his superior, glowering at Fat Rabbit. Explain this one, Bunny, if you can. Begging your pardon, sir, said Fat Rabbit, tugging on an ear, but you must have heard. Again he whispered to the oberst. The poachers. They make their feet into waste paper baskets. Poor soul, she's lost all four. The oberst turned beetroot red. The scoundrels! The fiends! He was lost for words. Taking Melissa by the trunk, he helped her mop her tearful eyes. Madam, I can only express my deepest sympathy. This touching scene was interrupted by a cry from the corporal who had progressed down the line. Hoofs! Hoofs, sir! Definitely hoofs! Snapping upright, the oberst remembered his station and strode to the next unlucky animal in line, followed by an ever more bedraggled, but somewhat more perky, Fat Rabbit. Corporal Clot was triumphantly pointing his bolt gun in the direction of an undeniable hoof that belonged to Archibald, who was standing as much to attention as a shire horse could. And what have we here? Asked the oberst with equally undeniable menace in his voice. Second Lieutenant Archibald Wardrobe Yardley Gobian, sir, announced the horse proudly. 2nd Fitzwilliam Regiment, King's Own Horse Artillery, Distinguished Service Medal, Dickey Medal with bar, and very large medal for pulling 42-pounders in mud. Mind your eyes, what, sir? Even Corporal Clot looked impressed.
A Dickey Medal with bar?
Queried the Oberst.
Impressive indeed.
Kind of you to say so, sir. Awarded for suicidal stubbornness in the face of overwhelming odds, sir. Even Fat Rabbit was surprised by this revelation. Suicidal stubbornness? He asked. I mean, wouldn't you have to be dead to get one of those? Would have been if we'd have been Japanese, what? Kamikaze, what, see you? More a theoretical concept in the King's Own, sir, and Rabbit-san. Archibald was getting a little carried away.
I see, said the Oberst. However, despite your most distinguished service record, you remain undoubtedly an ungulate, and therefore subject to culling. Regulations are regulations, as I'm sure you understand, soldier. Most regrettable.
And truly, there was sincere regret in the man's voice. Perfectly, sir. Couldn't agree more, what? And as I'm sure sir is aware, Foxtrot 64 Foxtrot Ghetto Tango prohibits the culling of noble beasts, per se, horses and greyhounds, sir. With or without hoofs, sir. A very strange combination of fury and relief passed in rapid succession over the Oberst's face. He turned to his corporal.
Clot, is this true?
Fumbling through the dozen or so pockets in his combat trousers, Corporal Clot finally located a rather worn and folded piece of paper. He studied it for a moment, before announcing in a voice that was on the point of breaking, I'm afraid so, sir. The 2nd Lieutenant is correct. And you do remember all that nastiness over the Aintree incident?
The Oberst turned pink, then red, then orange, then
pure aubergine purple.
Don't ever mention the Aintree incident again, he screamed.
There was the most prolonged and embarrassing of silences. Corporal Clot simply stared forlornly at his boots that were covered in all the muck a farmyard can throw at your footwear. Fat Rabbit listened to the drip, drip, drip of the rain running down his ears and falling to the ground, and Archibald could be heard whistling, It's a bugger of a long way to Melton Mowbray under his breath. Now, you may be thinking that Fat Rabbit was probably enjoying that warm feeling of self-confidence and the thrilling glow of a plan coming together. Far from it. The bedraggled rabbit knew that he might have found his way back to the path, but he was a long way from being out of the woods. The main reason for his concern was the fact that Roger was next in line. It really should have been so simple. Roger was so closely related to noble horses that a bit of blag was all it should have taken. But the only thing that was simple when it came to Roger the donkey, well, was Roger the donkey. And it didn't help, as Fat Rabbit noted with dismay, that Plato the cat was reclined on Roger's back, getting soaking wet. Something that Plato would only submit to if there was a chance of a most cunning plan turning into a total farce. More hoofs here, announced Clog, lifting up one of Roger's front feet from the sticky, sucky mud.
Ah,
the Oberst announced this with real relish.
Explain yourself. Are you an elephant, polar bear, or war veteran?
Come on, Rog, thought Fat Rabbit. You can do it. We practiced it, you bugger. Come on. Stammered Roger. Come on, implored Fat Rabbit, focusing all of his mind on his friend. That's it, announced Roger gleefully. I'm a goat. It took all of Fat Rabbit's reserves to prevent himself from simply falling face down in the mud with his arms outstretched and giving up on life. It couldn't prevent him from uttering an almost audible bagger into his waterlogged ears. Plato too seemed equally affected and seemed to be choking on Roger's back.
Our goat!
exclaimed the Oberst and the Corporal in perfect harmonic unison.
A goat!
"Oh, goat! I goat! I goat! I goat!" Despite the mud, they were in grave danger of dancing in a reel of pure joy. And what of it?" asked Roger hopefully. Corporal Clot laughed and cocked his bolt in a very menacing and terminal sort of way. "Goats, see. They have hoofs, see. Make some ungulates, see. And we kill ungulates." "Oh," said Roger, as a light bulb tried to flicker into life in his mind. "I think I might have got that a bit wrong." It was Archibald who came to the rescue. As Corporal Clot made to push the cold steel barrel of the bolt gun up against the poor donkey's temple, the stately shy horse gently raised a hoof and politely pushed it to one side. "Sorry, sir. Can't pay too much attention to him, sir. Major Roger Marmaduke Gumtree Mitinkoff MC and Bar VC Whiskin Sober tends to blither a bit, sir." He leaned in close to the Oberst and whispered, "Trauma, you see, sir. Shush. Don't want to set him off again, what?" "Trauma?" queried the Oberst incredulously. "Yes, sir," affirmed Archibald as quietly as he could manage. "He spent months behind enemy lines, infiltrating enemy horses and getting them to be resistant, stubborn, pulling the wrong direction, what? Played havoc with their big guns, you know. Specialist in locking stable doors after he got them to bolt. Betrayed by some filly being run by a mule, know what I mean, sir? Nonsense-olatory. Oh, what they did to him. It'd have broken me, sir, and perhaps you, if you don't mind me saying. Escaped, armed only with the stub of a cheap carrot." "Incredible," sighed the Oberst. "Indeed, sir. Turned his brain, though. Unfit for active duty, sir." "So he's not a goat at all, then?" "Nay," said Archibald. "That's the brainwashing. They made everyone think they were a goat. Major McIntosh here is a fifth-generation Shetland pony, sir, and as such, a noble beast, diminutive class." Roger just nodded vigorously and drooled helpfully. "Are you sure he's not a donkey?" asked the corporal suspiciously. A velvety chuckle came from somewhere behind Roger's head. A moment later, Plato appeared between his ears and crossed his paws on Roger's forehead. "Right," he purred, fixing the corporal with his hypnotic feline gaze. "If this here pony's a donkey, then what's that met me? The Virgin buggering Mary?" That rabbit's brain was torn apart as he struggled to comprehend why Plato had missed the opportunity to scupper the best-laid plan of a rabbit, whilst at the same time trying to come to terms with the concept of a buggering virgin. In a final act of desperation, he resorted to nodding his head like a demented car novelty. The Oberst looked at the nodding donkey and the nodding rabbit and felt a headache coming on. It had been so much easier last week at McKinnon's Organic Cattle Burger Farm. "Very well," he said, nodding at Archibald. "Move on, Clot." Clot shot a despicable glance at Plato and Fat Rabbit, but moved on down the line. Fat Rabbit allowed himself a sigh of relief that rapidly grew to confidence and then expanded into dangerous narcissistic pride. Only Daffodil and Desiree, the ducks, and Flues and Treacle remained. As the ducks happily lifted their webbed feet and quacked in a sincerely joyous way, they hadn't seen so much rain for ages, Treacle hopped around singing, "Love those tiger feet," and Flues crooned menacingly, "These feet were made for walking, man, and walking they will do." Fat Rabbit followed the Oberst and Corporal Clot to the end of the line, with slightly more spring in his step than but a few moments earlier. After the corporal had dutifully inspected both Treacle and Flues' feet, to cries of, "Ooh, that really tickles," and "I'll have you for assault," respectively, the Oberst turned to Fat Rabbit. "Well, it appears that all is relatively in order here, though by God, never have I seen such a messed up group of animals." "Thank you kindly, most humbly," said Fat Rabbit, remembering his Uriah Heep routine. "Are there any more?" asked the Oberst. "Only this here decrepit owl and a tiny sparrow," said Fat Rabbit, pointing to where Lightning and Cheryl sat watching from the sycamore tree. "Let's go home, Corporal," sighed the Oberst. "Rabbit, your animals are dismissed." "Thank you kindly, humbly, etc.," said Fat Rabbit. Turning to his friends, he shouted gleefully, "Attention! A salute for the Oberst!"
He's a rabbit with a habit. He's skinny but they call him a rabbit. He's a rabbit and there you have it. If he offers you a drink you better grab it.
Nailed it, you bugger.